29%. And one of us will be on track this hour. Okay, I'm going to go through two methods. Probably not me. I'm going to go through two methods. The method number one, I don't really love this way, but it works. I'm going to probably not do things this way, but here's method number one. Is you could take a fraction and turn it into a ratio. So we were doing like ratios in the last section. So the part divided by the whole. That would give you the percent divided by 100. So if you think back to the notes we just did, we talked about a proportion as one fraction equals another, one ratio equals another. So this really is a proportion. And you could take this equation and use it to solve all kinds of different percent problems. So let's say we try to set up this next one. If 13/27ths of the class are girls, so if we have 13 girls in a class of 27, and I just made up numbers, so what percent is it? Well, if you wanted to write that equation, and most of you will probably skip it, but I'm just going to quick write it. Part divided by the whole equals the percent divided by 100. So we're looking for this percent right here in the upper right. That's what we're trying to find. And the 13/27 is the part divided by the whole. That 13 is the part of the class that's girls. 27 is the whole class. So that then is going to equal the percent divided by 100. So for those, the percent is like the x, that's what we're trying to find. And just like before, we could cross multiply and divide. So we could say 27 times x, or 27x, equals 13 times 100. So we'd have 1,300 equals 27x. Divide both sides by 27. And we come up with x being 48.1. So it's 48.1% of the class are girls. Does that make sense to people? Mm-hmm. So we could do it that way. We could take the second one. Really, the unknown could be in three places. So I have three different examples. The unknown could be the percent, like example one. The unknown could be the part. So this percent is what part of the whole. Or this part is this percent, what's the whole? So three examples for those three places the unknown could be. Number two, if 40% of the class buys the teacher donuts, how many students in a class of 20 will buy Mr. Falk donuts? So it could do part divided by the whole equals the percent over 100. And so 40%, we're going to put that in the upper right. So I do 40 divided by 100. And then we have the part divided by the whole. So how many students in a class of 20? Is 20 the part or the whole? Whole. So 20 students, so my x is up there. If I cross multiply it and divide it, I get x equals 6. Pretty sure. Oh, x equals 8. Did the math wrong in my head. Sorry about that. So x equals 8. Can I just skip the cross multiplying and dividing? Yeah. Okay. Then this last one, I'm going to go back and write my equation quick a second. So I have the part divided by the whole equals the percent over 100. If 16% of the class have been to Silver Lake, or 60% of the class have been to Silver Lake, if 4 people have been there, how large is the class? So 16% goes top right. So I'd have 16 over 100. And then 4 people have been there. So the 4 people is the part. That the 4 people are the 16%. 16% have been there. 4 people have been there. So it's kind of like we have the wholes here and we have the parts there. So if we cross multiply and divide, we get 16x equals 400. Divide both sides by 16. X is going to be 25. And again, you guys are okay solving those? If not, you could always ask in class or jump back to notes from the last couple sections. So to finish this off, if we go back up to the top, method number one is make a proportion. So proportion. And this fraction that we have here, fraction equals fraction, that's just a proportion. Work for you? Yep. Okay. Then if we jump to the second page. Yeah. Sure. So now if we do these same 3 problems again, nice part is we know the answers, but we have, so let me write, so we have the percent times the whole equals the part. And if you want to, I can show you how to change the proportion into this, but you can do that at the end. Now we have this 13/27 of the class. Of means multiply. Get rid of my chicken scratchings there. So of the class. So 13/27 of the class. Yep, this one doesn't fit my pattern nicely. Maybe I should start over here. Sorry, nothing like crashing and burning on the first example. Okay, what percent are girls, right? So agree we're looking for X, we're looking for the percent. And now we have to look at it, so 13/27, is that going to be the whole amount or is that the part? That's going to, I guess it's kind of both. Ugh. Usually don't give you fractions. 13 is the part. Exactly. Thanks for bailing me out there. So the part that's girls is 13. The whole class is 27. So we have our problem like that. Now, if we want to solve for X, we need to undo multiplying by 27. So we divide by 27. X equals 13 divided by 27 should give us a 0.481. So does it make sense to say it's 0.481%? Yep, for a percent, you need to change it back to a percent from the decimal. So we end up with the exact same answer as before, 48.1%. So if they give you the 13/27, the part is going to be on the top, the whole is going to be on the bottom. So part and whole. But that's going to be very rare. All right, if we go down to the next one, I'm going to say the percent times the whole equals the part. 40%, that goes in my percent, but do I write a 40 there? Nice. I have to change it to a decimal point, so you have to go back to, and so 0.4 times of the class is what we're trying to find. How many students in a class of 20? So how many students, okay, 40% of the class buys the teacher donuts. How many students in a class of 20 will buy the teacher donuts? 20 is the whole. And you have that of, which is the multiplication, and then the 20. So we're looking for this over here. And the nice part with this way is you don't need to like cross multiply and divide. You just do one math operation. So 0.4 times 20 should give us X equals 8. And so 8 people buy donuts. Then this last one, if we do percent times the whole equals the part. 16%, so I write that as 0.16 times the whole X. And the part that had been there, the 16%, is the 4. So to get to the answer in one step, we find X by, divide by 0.16. And we get a X equals 25. One thing I omitted on the last page, let me quick jump to that a second. Everybody get the X equals 25? Yep. So the second page, on those first examples, we always had the percent divided by 100. You can save yourself some work mathematically. It can be a little bit faster if you kind of manually convert the percent. So you kind of manually dividing by 100. As you go through math problems, of means what? Multiply, actually. So when you see the word of in a story problem, it's going to be what is this percent of something, or 5 of 20. And you're going to have to do the multiplication. So is means equals. So we have those. So the percent, I'll come back to that. Okay, so if we go down, writing a percent as a decimal. When you divide by 100, it moves the decimal point how many places? 2. So you just move the decimal point 2 places when you want to convert between a percent and a decimal, or a decimal and a percent. It doesn't matter which direction. So 50% is the same as what decimal point? 0.5. And if you wanted to, you could do 0.50. That helps some people, but 0.5 would work. And our decimal point's there. We're going to take and move that decimal point 2 places to get it to 0.5. So if I have 15%, 15% as a decimal will be
0.15.
0.15. You guys okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Then 87.5% would be
0.875.
0.875. So all those, we're taking our decimal point, we're moving it 2 places. Good? Maybe I should throw another one at you. I'm just going to go on the side, say like 3% equals
0.05 or 0.03.
Yep, 0.03. That we're here, so we have to go 2 jumps. So it goes out there. I have to put a 0 in as a placeholder. Now, if I have 0.5% or 0.5%, that's going to be
0.005.
nice, 0.005. Because we have 2 jumps. So 0.005. Any questions? Now the next examples, we're doing that same thing, but we're going the opposite direction. So 0.47 as a decimal, when we change that to a percent, it's going to be 47%. Exactly. That we're just taking these ones we did before, and essentially we're moving the decimal point back to get the 87.5%, or kind of whatever it'd be. My next one would be nice, 12.5%. Or the final one.
There's already percent there.
Oh, thank you. You're right. I don't need my percents, do I? So, yeah, he's saying I don't need the percents here at the end. So I put the percent in the blank. So 12.5. Last one is going to be what percent? Nice. That it's 132. So we can be over 100%. You just move it 2 places. Yep. That'd be like percent growth or percent increase. Okay, now the equation that we're going to use requires us to do this top part here. That when you take and put a number as a percent in this problem, you have to move the decimal point 2 places. And that's how we can get rid of that divide by 100 in the proportion. So here's the equation in red for dramatic emphasis. The percent times the whole equals the part. So I'm going to put a box around it. But this is the one I prefer. It just goes faster. And when you see that equal sign, you can know that equals in a story problem is the word is. And that multiplication in a story problem is the word of. Those 2 things we did right up above. And that right there. Ready to go back to that first page?
We're not done?
No. We're going to redo those first 3 a second. And so I should have right here, said percent, written right as a decimal. So if you have a decimal, you need to change it to a percent like we did here. Or if you do a problem and you get an answer that looks like one of these, and you're finding the percent, then you have to change it back to the percent. So you have to manually switch it back and forth between a percent and a decimal every problem.